The man behind Vader, Alien, and the Ark, Brian Muir. Most people know Darth Vader, fewer know the man who helped bring him to life. In this interview with Brian Muir, we go beyond Star Wars to explore a career that shaped the look of modern cinema. To the Space Jockey and Alien alongside H.R. Giger, to decades of work across Bond, Harry Potter and beyond, this is the story of the artist behind the objects that made the films feel real.
And here he is. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. It's an honor, really, to kind of see all of the things that you've done and have that be such a part of mine and so many others' lives is it's an absolute delight to speak to you about it. And I imagine this journey started a long time ago when you first realized you wanted to be a sculptor. Did you have a sort of a eureka moment? Is there a moment that stood in your mind as where it really all came together?
Not really. It actually started at about the age of 13 when I discovered that I could draw and paint. And I wanted to do something in art, but I couldn't see any opening anywhere where I could actually start as an artist or a sculptor until I eventually said to my mother, I'd really like to do something in art. And she said, well, I've got a friend down at the Youth Employment. And I went down to see her and she said, oh, they're interviewing for a model maker down at the studios at Elstree. And I didn't really know what I envisioned doing small models of sets or something. Anyway, she said, well, don't hold out too much in the way of hope because they've turned down 12 people already. So I went there not expecting too much, but I got on quite well with the resident sculptor there. And I took drawings and paintings and one carving that I had actually done with a totem pole I'd carved with 1 inch square chisel. So it was quite crude. But anyway, a week later, a letter dropped on the doormat at home and it said that I'd got the job there. It was actually an apprenticeship. So at the age of 16, I became a professional sculptor.
Wow.
Working on small British films made at Elstree at that time, Hammer horror films, things like Twiggy the Boyfriend, The Railway Children, Digby the Biggest Dog. So they're all small British films, but they had work on them. And being a resident sculptor with the old guy that I trained under, we also went up to MGM Film Studios. That was a big studios. They did much bigger films there to work on Captain Nemo, where I did some big shells and that. So that was the first thing that I actually did that was seen on the screen. And I also worked on the big gold figure that spewed out gold. And funny enough, the convention we went to, a guy bought a picture of it and wanted me to sign it. So that's the first time I'd seen that for a long, long time. And out of the blue, I had a phone call. Would I like to go back into the film industry? There was a sci-fi film going into Elstree. And they wanted some strange characters sculpted. And I said, yeah, I'd love to come back into the industry. But they were only offering 6 weeks work, and I had a permanent job as such. So I talked to my wife, who is my wife now, and who wasn't at the time, and we decided I'll go for it. And I think they did it to cover their backside, so that if they thought that I wasn't up to the task and couldn't do a good enough job, they could quite easily then say, no, it's you've done the work we wanted, bye. But I stayed for the whole film, so they liked what I was doing. In the way that I could carve plaster sections, whether it be ornate work, I could carve it with my wood carving chisels. I could carve carved them, and even the figures on Star Wars, I used my wood carving chisels to sharpen all of 3PO up, that 3PO that Liz Moore did. She, that was the main character that she did, that was it. Apart from years after I found out that she'd done the Stormtrooper helmet, because I did all the Stormtrooper armour from the sort of the helmet down, I did all of that. And it was only later when I got involved with a court case for Lucasfilm and for myself, the guy that vacuum formed the Stormtrooper armour, he said he'd sculpted it. And it all went to court. And the judge found against him. Lucasfilm won 443 points out of 246. And the judge said that I sculpted it, and that he had vacuum formed it, which he had. If he'd have stuck to just saying that, he would have been very well thought of, but he isn't now because of the lies, and he told them that trying to take the credit for Liz Moore's work on the helmet. Right. But I found out I was working on a Harry Potter film when the court case happened, and the head of special effects was her boyfriend, who she'd left a picture to go and see out in Holland, and he set a workshop up for her, and she did the clay helmet for the Stormtrooper out there. And it was only all these years later that I actually found out she did it, because I didn't see her when she brought it in. She'd brought it in after I'd left work that day and left it outside the sculpture shop on the table there, which I uncovered when I come in the following morning. I thought, well, that's a nice job. I was a little bit disappointed, having done all the Stormtrooper armour, that I didn't do the helmet. But, you know, I've made sure all these years later, I say I have, I mean my wife as well, that she got the credit for it. So we've put that in a lot of places, in the books as well. And she's well known for having created the Stormtrooper helmet. The Stormtrooper was the first job that I started. I worked with Liz for about 4 weeks in the same little workshop we had in the art department at Elstree. And she was just finishing off the C-3PO head. And then, as I said, when she left, I had to finish it all off, sharpen everything up. But my first job was Stormtrooper armour. And the first thing I started on was the chest armour. And then from there, everything worked down the stomach, the crutch, arms, which was two pieces, and the shoulders. And then I had the back to do. Well, all the front I'd done to the Ralph McQuarrie concept art, but there was no concept for the back of the Stormtrooper, so we had to make it up. And John Barry, who was the designer on the film, between me and him, we decided that I'd do a panel on the back, and you'll see a cog and two oblong pieces there. And because I was the only sculptor on the picture by then, I went down to the props room, because I had so much work and so little time, and I found a cog down there and two bits of wood. And I went back up, and on the panel that I'd sculpted on the back, I just put them on and stuck them in. And I've seen all sorts of explanations as what they mean over the years. And I found it quite amusing at times, knowing that the only thing they mean is that I didn't have time, I found a cog and two bits of wood and put them on. There's no meaning for it whatsoever. Yeah. I just saw the Death Star drawing up. You've got it up at the moment, and you showed the drawing that I did. I don't think the Death Star droid was an early version of Vader as such.
No,
I can't say that for certain, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Brian, they say it's CZ3.
CZ3 was the one that was a concept that was drawn by Ralph McQuarrie for that job, but the Death Star droid was a character.
Yeah.
And there's a test shot of the Stormtrooper that's just come up on the screen, and that is the original one that was shot at Elstree, and the guy in there is a guy called Dennis Plenty. And Dennis Plenty, there's a lot of them that say they're the original Stormtrooper, but he is the original Stormtrooper because they moulded him, they cast him in plaster, and it was that plaster model of Dennis Plenty that I sculpted the Stormtrooper armour on. They used him in the test shots that were taken at Elstree at the time, and you see he's got a lump of wood for the gun. They didn't have a gun at that point, obviously. But yeah, there were things that were changed. There was a panel on the back of the helmet, that little panel that they'd put on, that was taken off. Either Lucas or John Barry decided they didn't like it.
The website?
Well, mainly it's signed photographs, all 3 books. You can get plaques, because a lot of people have plaques with their Vader helmets or Stormtrooper, the Death Star droid if they have it. ZZ3, Regal Robot in America, they did a run of CZ3s, and I signed 15 plaques for that. They sold out in minutes. So a few years later, they've not done it yet. They were talking about doing a version of the Death Star droid. So I've signed 100 plaques, all 100 they wanted a plaque with. EFX did a run of Vader helmets, and I signed something like 400 odd plaques for them. Did Vader in the same way that the Stormtrooper was done. They moulded Dave Prowse, who played the part of Vader. Well, he was in the suit anyway, and they cast him in plaster, so they took a life mould off him again. And I had a plaster version of Dave Prowse that I sculpted the mask, the helmet, the chest armour, the shoulder bells and the shins on. So we knew that they would fit Dave Prowse after. He was 6'6" and extremely well built. He was big all over. I mean, even his head was big. So if you wear a Darth Vader helmet and it's linked back to the original, you'll see how big it is. But it's not. I mean, his head was in line with the rest of his body as such. You wouldn't look at him and think, oh, he's got a big head, because his whole body was big. You know, he was all in proportion. Because he was offered 2 parts. He was offered to do Chewbacca or Vader, and he chose Vader. And without a doubt, it was the right part to take. Such an iconic character. Oh, and yes. Very well recognised all around the world. Even in China, we went to a couple of conventions in China, one in Beijing and then one in Shanghai. And Vader is just, even in China, it's recognised. They'd only had, oh, just looking at there, that's the royal coat of arms that I did for the Crown Court. That's the clay, which is what I sculpt. And then they mould that, cast it in fiberglass, and it was all done in heraldic colours, which there's a photograph in my one of the books of that job with all the heraldic colours on, which is, it went to the Crown Court like that. But they liked it that much, they had it as a coat of arms for several courts around the country. But that was the 3 years I had outside of the industry doing all that type of work. That one there is for a Bond movie, and I can't think of which one it was. It was one of the early Bond films. And the earliest one, I did 9 Bond films in all, and the earliest one was The Spy Who Loved Me. And for that one, I did some Egyptian work in Q's workshop, which was in Abu Simbel. And I also did, on that film, I did the tiger shark that Jaws wrestles with in the Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen the film,
Yes.
But Bond picks him up by his teeth with a great big magnet and drops him in the shark tank, and then you see him, he's wrestling with this shark, and he bites the shark and manages to get away anyway. You also see the same shark swim up to an actress that went into the lift there, and a floor opened and she got taken down into the shark tank, and you don't see her being eaten, but that's what happened. That one is Spy Love Me, and it was for the main bad character. It was for his underwater ship. We've got a picture with Roger Moore, Caroline Monroe, and another actress, and you can see that in the background in the ship. I mean, what you actually see on the website is a tiny fraction of the work I've done. It only covers 35 films, and the work that I show is only a little bit of the work that I've done on the films. So yeah, it's just shows enough work to show the type of work that you do in the film industry. But I covered 35 films, and I've worked on double that, about 70 films. I mean, the one you're looking at there is the Space Jockey, which was Alien, the first film. And I worked a lot with Giger on that. That Space Jockey is his concept. He didn't sculpt it, although some people think he did, because he posed next to it when it was being sculpted. But a guy called Peter Voisey and myself, we sculpted it. It took 4 weeks, a month, and that stands 26 foot high. There's also bone sections at the back that go right around the stage, and I did one section on a double radius board that they could mould, and then mould that and cast them in plaster, and one side marries into the other side, so they can actually stack them going right up the set and around the set. So that was just another job I did. Very organic, yeah, but he was very talented with the airbrush. All his work was very three-dimensional, so that side of it, to do the detail on it was easier. It was working out how to achieve it. So that's the hardest bit. I mean, visually you can carve that, no problem. It's actually working out the technical side of it.
It's quite unsettling to look at as well. So when you've got it all around you, it must be strange being strange all the ephemera all around you.
Yeah. I mean, he was quite a character. He wore black the whole time that I saw him on the film. Every day he was always dressed in black, and he was supposed to be a high-ranking wizard. So yeah, he was a character. And that the entrances to the spaceship. Peter and I were working on H stage, and we were about to start that. Giger wandered in, and he came in with some top shelf magazines, very detailed, of a lady's parts, and he left the stage afterwards, and we just looked at each other and we laughed and said, there's no way we can do what he's asking us to do. So what you actually see on the spacecraft is a very stylized version. I'll leave the rest to your imagination.
It's wow. Yeah, I can see you there.
Oh, that's the bone section that I was talking about, that's on a double radius, and that goes right up the set. That I was only halfway through it there. I had a lot of finishing to do, but that's in clay. Because it wasn't that deep, did it in solid clay. And as I said, one side marries into the other side, so you can stack them, and it looks as though it's all one. Giger went on a promotional tour out in America with it, and they're not quite sure what happened, but it burnt down. It caught light and burnt down. They're not sure if it was a religious person didn't like it and set light to it, or someone left a cigarette on there, because it was polystyrene as well. As you can see, that section there, I'm carving that in polystyrene. So it could have caught light, and also the paint that went on it. There was a lot of inflammable paint and lacquers and that, so it probably would have caught light quite easily. So, I mean, that was the story at the time, that or the fact that someone just left a cigarette near it.
Well, yeah.
That too. Anyway, it went up in flames. I mean, they're the entrances I was talking about. And I did a lot, all the bones around that set. The plasterers did the main easy sections, and then any part of the bones that needed were more sculptural, I did them. And then it was all painted as one then after that. But
was it difficult with the polystyrene element? Is that because that couldn't be further away from working with wood?
Oh, I mean, I did a lot of polystyrene carving in my film career. Anything over a certain size, it suits to do in polystyrene because you haven't got to mould and cast it afterwards. What you do is the finished job. So, I mean, things like for Clash of the Titans, I did a 25-foot figure. On that, I did two at the entrance to the city. I did the two Assyrian balls that tie into the archway, and I did all the panels around the entrance as well. Things like all the big Russian statues for GoldenEye on the Bond film, they were all polystyrene.
Oh yes.
That was the first film that went into what is now Warner Brothers Studios, where all the Harry Potters were made. So the first film that was ever made there, I did the Russian statues. I didn't work on the pictures as such, I did them all at a price. There were two of us worked on them and carved them all in about 10 weeks. We did a huge amount of work. We had two guys doing basic cutting for us, and then we did all the sculptural side of it, the carving. It varied because Bond goes all around the world. It's always based in a different part of the world. So you could be doing any style of work, Egyptian and Russian and all that ornate work there. I did that. And on the end of the banister there's an ornate pineapple. And Bond slides down the banister rail, and he sees at the bottom that there's this pineapple, and he's going to do himself some damage. So he uses his gun to shoot it off and slides off the end and runs off. That there is all that ornate work I did there, and it's handed, you have to do both sides. It was in Octopus's bedroom. And that's where she had the tanks with the octopussy in, or octopi, I think, when there's more than one. I didn't get any reference from them. I just made them up.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I did 3 different masks basically. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. There's a story with the heart actually, because I sculpted the heart, but he takes out the sacrifice. How you've got it there. And they decided that it'd be a good idea if I went to Harefield Heart Hospital to see a surgeon there. So I went off to Harefield Heart Hospital, and I was sat there chatting with the surgeon, and I said, what's the closest heart I can get to human? He said, well, the primates. So I said, well, I can't really get that. What's the closest sort of domestic type animal? And settled for a sheep in the end. So the film brought me in a sheep's heart, and I also had a plastic model that they use in hospitals with the right places for the veins to come off, the size of it and everything else. So using those two, I sculpted the heart, and then the special effects put a double pump in there, which gives you the heart sound. So yeah, that was. Oh yeah, as I was getting up to leave, the heart surgeon said to me, he said, "Oh, I'm doing open heart surgery tomorrow. Would you like to come along and watch?" So it took me about 2 seconds to say thanks, but no thanks. It wouldn't have been any good to me anyway. I could hardly say to him halfway through the operation, "Can you stop? I want to get a few pictures." So it wouldn't have helped me. I needed something visually there when I was doing it for what it was. It needed to be correct. It was going to be seen close up. But I liked Indiana Jones. Temple of Doom was my favourite one, although I worked on all three. The snake that you see there coming down out the tree, I sculpted that. And the opening sequence, which is the gong there, I did a dragon that went right away around the gong with the Paramount Mountains in the middle, so they were smaller than that. And it really looked good. It looked good, and I'd spent 2 weeks doing it. And the art department came and they said, yeah, it looks great, but we can't use it because it's the wrong scale to pan back off. So what you see there, I had 2 days to sculpt because it was needed on set. Yeah,
that's
2
such
days.
an iconic moment. When you think of Temple of Doom, you think of that rolling along.
Yeah, that and it was the Obi-Wan Club, so there was a lot of ties into Star Wars. Even on the first one, all those Egyptian panels, they had a R2-D2 and a C-3PO on them. I can't remember, because I carved a lot of those panels, and I can't remember if I did that or there was another person carving them, so I don't know if I did them or not.
Yeah, but, it's interesting that those films were actually, for young people like me watching at the time, maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was scared to death. There was a lot of scary imagery.
Oh yeah. The one of the other jobs that you wouldn't realised at the time was when Indiana Jones goes down the Anubis figures into the snake pit, and he's there, and you see they shoot from behind his head, and there's a live cobra there in front of him, but behind a big glass sheet. And because they're shooting into the dark, they can get away with using the glass sheet. But when they look the other way and you see his terrified face, you couldn't use the glass sheet. So I had to sculpt the cobra that you see from the other way. So yeah, just one of the tricks of the film industry. She wouldn't have a snake near her, and that's the reason I had to sculpt the python. I think it was that's the python there that I sculpted, and it was 14 foot long. And if it was a real python with its tail around that tree, there's no way she could have grabbed it and just thrown it. The weight of it alone. And we've stopped the film years down the road, and you can see the snake when it lands on the ground that it's a lifeless lump of rubber as such. You don't see it with that. The special effects did a good job of giving it movement. And I didn't paint it. There was a lady called Val Charlton that painted it, and she made a nice job of painting it. Again, I only had a few days to sculpt that. I mean, it's a team effort. Even with the likes of Vader, it's not just the fact that I sculpt it. What I did makes Vader look Vader. But then you've got the plasterers that mould it. They cast it in resin. Then you've got the painter, Ron Punter, who did the painting. Then you've got the special effects work. So it's a team, and even the visualisation of George Lucas, he came up, he liked what I'd done on it. He didn't have much to say. He's not very talkative, George, but he's very quiet and reserved. But he made it plain that he liked what he was looking at, and he was right. It worked, and all these years later, it's an iconic character, and visually it works quite well. With Vader as well, I mean, you see things, and you can't be Star Wars policeman, and that's partly why we wrote the book, the original Stormtrooper, because there were so many things being said about the Stormtrooper that we got fed up with putting them right all the time. So we decided to write the book, and that's it. It's all in there, and if anyone really wants to know, they can buy the book and educate themselves as to what happened with the Stormtrooper. So we can't be the policeman for Star Wars and the characters as such. But yeah, as you say, there are things that come up. They've always gone on, and you can get sci-fi conventions, and not necessarily Star Wars, but they'll have the likes of me there because of all the other films I've worked on, and also the characters in Star Wars, which is the main thing that takes us to conventions. But there is so much more than the Star Wars, as you've seen on the website.
Many people's favourite Marvel film.
Yeah, it was a nice film, actually. I must admit, when we were working on the film, we thought, what the hell is this film we're working on? They're going to have a raccoon is one of the main characters in it. What the hell is it? But that one there, that's, is it James Gunn?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the director on it, and he's standing in the back of the spaceship that you see flying around. It's the real organic one. And we had to sculpt that, and there were a team of us that sculpted it. There was about 4 or 5 of us, because they had characters running out of it. So you had to have a full-size section, which then is using CGI. They got it to fly, and obviously extended that along for that shot where the actors come running out the back end of it. But yeah, that was a fun job to do.
And then it ended up being massive.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I mean, the original Star Wars, I mean, if I'm honest, most of us on the film, working on the film, thought, what the hell is this? It's not going to be a good film. And were we proved wrong? I mean, the next year in 77, because I started at the beginning, January 76, working on the film. It came out in 77, and we went to the crew showing in London. And when that huge spaceship comes over the top, and is so incredible, it got a round of applause for that. And then at the end of the film, this same pessimistic crew that thought it was going to be rubbish, it got a standing ovation. And I've never seen it since on any film.
Yeah.
So it was before its time. It was incredible. None of us could visualise what the work that they did at ILM out in America, because all the filming, the main filming was done back in England, and then all the special effects ILM was done out in America. But what they did brought it all together and made it believable as a film. So yeah. Again, team effort. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about Rogue One, it supposedly ends 15 minutes before Star Wars starts. So the strange thing is that the director wanted Vader to look like the Empire version, because it's all nice and shiny, but A New Hope wasn't. It's like battle-worn and aged and everything else. So it wasn't quite lining up with what it should have been, but anyway. The real true fans saw it, the real nerds, but basically I don't think anyone else probably saw it. Yeah, I mean, they changed from A New Hope. It was the same helmet they used on A New Hope that was transformed into ESB. And what they did is they filed the Widow's Peak, the point there, they filed it flat, and they made the chin vent bigger and did a really polished paint job on it. So that's the only difference. It's the same helmet, literally the same one that he wore on A New Hope. I don't know if they did, I know for a fact they did that for from A New Hope to Empire. I don't know if they did the same for Return of the Jedi, and they used the same helmet, but the only difference there is they made the chin vent even slightly bigger, and the wire that's in the strip across the top was filled in so it's flat, and that was only, and a different paint job again. But the first 3 films were my helmet, and then it was resculpted for the Sith, and George wanted it totally symmetrical, and there were 6 of them worked on that, whereas I did the original one by myself and did it in about 2 weeks in all, you know, to probably about a week sculpting in the clay and then tidying it up in the plaster. But they were on it for 2
why he wanted to change that.
Not that I know of. I think he just decided that he wanted it symmetrical. And a lot of people don't like it from the fact that it is symmetrical, because the original one has got character.
Yes.
Whereas that one didn't. It's like the human face. If you split it in 2 and you put one half against the other, it's totally different. They did that with Harrison Ford, and it's so different. They put the same 2, the half, they repeated it, and it made him look like a different person. So the fact that the 2 sides of your face are different gives you character. And Vader had that. And it was, it was symmetrical. A lot of it was done by computer on the Sith mask. So it was a fair bit different from the original. But I had nothing to do with that at all.
I think the helmet was shorter.
Yeah, the actual helmet was shorter than the original one. It doesn't come down as far. But yeah, I mean, it is what George does. Wanted it was his franchise, his baby, so he did what he wanted to on it. Well, I did some work. I only worked on the New Hope. The next 2 I didn't work on. I was off doing Bond films or whatever films I was. You don't. I never waited for a film.
No, which did you like?
To watch. I liked Empire Strikes Back, out the original trilogy, and I think
Rogue One was good.
Rogue One was good after that. I did work on The Force Awakens as well. I worked on that for a while. And there was also graphic artist Bob Walker did the graphic work on a lot of the characters. Things like the Stormtroopers, the stripes down the side, and various other things.
He watched films with an artist's eye and think, oh,
no,
that looked good.
Well,
films I've worked on, I'm often working to see, you know where they're coming up, and you try to see them. And there are films that your work is out of focus because the focus is on the actor, and that's acceptable. But the sets, what they're actually trying to put over in the way of the set, bit like that octopus set that was all Indian work. You do all that work on the columns, the caps and the bases, all that ornate work makes it believable. That there was the octopusy bed. I did a bit of work on that. That was mainly a guy called Derek Howarth did the octopusy bed. But I had a couple of days spare, so I went and gave him a hand on that. You just showed Little Shop of Horrors. That was a fun thing to work on. Quite enjoyed that.
This is the scariest bit for me as a trial.
Oh, there's that dog there. I did that dog's head with the mouth open and with rotten teeth in it. It was in the dentist scene. He had that as a picture on the wall. To go to all that work, they had to put all the hair in it. I seem to think that I remember they did close in on it a bit. I may be wrong. I think they did. So, yeah.
It's petrifying as a child.
A couple of seconds of filming anyway.
Willow.
On that one, you can see they're always down. The first one, that's how I carved them. And then the designer, because they are going up to Wales in the valley on a castle, he wanted them really, really aged down. So I had to take a hammer to them and knock hell out of them, which are what you see the second ones. So you lose the polystyrene look in what you've hacked off. You then have to burn it all. So yeah, you can see the that's 12 foot high, but it's almost lost on that. It was a huge build they did up in Wales, in the valley. But supposedly the valley has got really high winds, and it aged the dogs that's how he wanted them. But I did 4 of them at 12 foot high, and then I did 2 at 8 foot high. So I was carving them in about 3 days in the end. Not under so much pressure when you go onto a film and you're building sets and the camera's not nearby as such. But as soon as the camera is there, I mean, stuff's wanted, and they're not fussy at all when it gets to that. And you are put under, you know, a lot more pressure to get work done quickly. Every job you do, people see it in a different light. And it means more to one person and not another. There are people that are just totally into the Indiana Jones films. And Bond, you get conventions that are all Bond movies. But although I've done 9 Bond movies, the only one convention I ever did was at Pinewood Film Studios on the 50-year anniversary. They did a Bond thing with the old Honor Blackman and a lot of the old Bond, and I got to sign at that one. Emotional they get. I mean, especially in Japan, when I'd sort of put my arm around people to have a photograph, and you could feel them literally shaking.
Wow.
Like it means so much to them. And I've had people crying, and
men and women.
Yeah, men and women. But you know, you try. You're very nice to them and
It's a compliment.
talk to them. Yeah, we bought loads and loads of the little figures initially for our kids, but they all got chucked out eventually.
To be played with.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We considered that was what we bought them for, so they could play with them. So as soon as they've taken out the wrappers and that's chucked away, they're worth a fraction of what they would have been. But you don't buy them thinking, oh, that 40, 50 years down the road, they'll be worth some money. I mean, if I'd have been thinking in that light back in the day, I would have had a Vader mask cast out for me and painted. But no, you don't think along those lines. The AI, more so than anything, a lot of the art is too good. And then you know it's not the person that's drawn it or painted it. They've done it on their computer. So I can't respect the effort or the skill that's gone into it as such, although the work that is produced is very good. So it's a bit of a mixed view of it. No, it doesn't upset me.
3D is good now.
3D is another way, you know, one that 3D, you do have to do it on the computer first with ZBrush and all that sort of thing to put it through a 3D printer. So I think you need more skill to do that than the AI.
True.
But still not quite the same as doing it yourself. It stands out that well, as you've seen, there are a lot. There's a lot of work there. So to pick any one thing, I mean, I must admit, I do appreciate the fact that I was lucky enough to have done Vader all those years ago. So if I had to say any one job, it would have to be Vader. It's a job that I did at the time. When I was actually doing it, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoy sculpting whatever I'm sculpting. And I enjoyed the Bond movies. Harry Potter's were quite good to work on. Indiana Jones. So it's complicated. And I find it hard to pick any one. But I often turn that on its head, and I say the one job I didn't enjoy working on. And I can't really now go into all of that. It was a film Superman. I worked on that. And there were a lot of reasons why it was horrible to work on as a film. One of them, I'd say one thing. I worked at Shepperton on it for 6 months, and every single job I did was scrapped because they changed designers 3 times, they changed directors, so that every designer that went on changed the work, the stuff that the other designer had done. So, well, yeah, the fact that you've spent 6 months doing all that work is one thing. You've been paid to do it. But the fact that it's not used just seems such a waste of time. Of course. So that was the thing, really. And the work itself wasn't really that nice to do. So it was that as well. It's positive stuff to talk about. Yeah. It's a real pleasure to know that fans are out there that enjoy watching the films that I worked on. It's a part of their childhood. And I see it at the conventions, and it means a lot to me when they do come up and say that was a big part of their lives. So, yeah, I don't have any regrets.
They have a lot of knowledge.
That's Lindsay. Can you hear what she's saying? They do have a lot of the fans have a lot of knowledge.
Interesting.
Would you like to come and have a chat?
No.
She'd never say anything on camera.
So you're very well.
She's been asked to do them a lot, actually, podcasts, and
they
she won't do it.
Behind the scenes stories.
Yeah, yeah, they do. They like the behind the scenes stories, and yeah, it's just great chatting with them. And some of them are so knowledgeable; they know so much.
Especially kids.
But I must admit, I've enjoyed this interview because they're all very different. But you really have researched it, and you've done a good job. Before I got the opening in the film industry, I had an apprenticeship as a carpenter offered to me. So I could have been a carpenter if I hadn't have got the start as a sculptor in the film industry. I might have ended up being a carpenter. So you can tell your dad that.
I will. He'll think that maybe he could have had a career
as a sculptor. You never know. Okay, it's been good talking to you.